Carolina This Week with Tim McGinnis.
Good morning. Welcome to Carolina This Week. This Sunday morning, we're going to talk about the greatest generation and getting them up to see their memorial in Washington, D.C. If you know somebody who's a World War II veteran or you are a World War II veteran, I encourage you to sit back and watch this show because we're going to talk about Honor Flight. And joining me this morning is Walt Collette and Bert Castles. All right, there we go. Two C's in there, guys, or two hard C's. Okay. Thanks for being with me today.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
I think Honor Flight's a wonderful, just a wonderful program for these veterans. We see the stories whenever you all do a flight. We get to watch them in Washington, on their way to and on their way back, and just what it means to these guys and gals.
I think for Bert and I, this is our 8th flight together.
Yes, right.
Yeah, 2 in Columbia,
We did 2
and
in
6.
Columbia.
This will be 6th one down here.
Yes.
Each one of those flights is just as rewarding for us as it is for the, to see what happens with the veterans and what transpires during the day.
Sure.
And some of that is bittersweet for them because of the memories, but there are other good memories that they have and they take away from the day as well. So that's important.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it good for us too. We feel great about that at the end of the day.
Well, we talked about this a little bit before the show, but the problem you're obviously running into is they're disappearing at an alarming rate.
Yes, they are. It's statistically, we understand it's 1,000 to 1,200 World War II veterans die a day.
Wow.
So they're declining in numbers very quickly.
And this war, for the men and women who lived through that time, I don't mean to diminish the wars that we've fought recently, but this number just astounds me. 405,399 service members died in World War II in 4 years.
That's correct.
The 4 years we were in it.
Right.
That number is just astonishing, and you know that what these men and women went through was just harrowing, and for them to see this monument and to relive it. And I understand that there's some veterans that don't even want to go up there and don't want to be in touch with it so much.
Well, that we understood, and I have a friend of mine who was a Vietnam vet who has the same feeling with respect to the wall in Washington. Every time I'm there, I make it my business to go visit the wall because I know there's a few people that I know that are on there somewhere.
Yeah.
But the veterans, the World War II veterans, it's unique to see the reactions, especially when they walk to their home pillar, and to see just how they react. And they'll gather at their state pillars, and then they'll pass the Wall of Stars, which represents all of the past, those that were killed during the war itself.
Yep.
So,
how did you guys come to do this? What led you to do it? Just each of you. What's your story, Bert?
Well, I started it in 2010. I had seen over the Christmas holidays in 2009 a PBS show on Honor Flight, which was operating out of Columbia, South Carolina, our state capital. And and they talked about the Guardians and everybody else. And so I said, well, I think I could be a Guardian. I don't know why not. And then I thought, well, maybe we have an airport here. Why couldn't we have a hub here? So when I talked to the head man up in Columbia, he said, well, why don't you start one in Myrtle Beach? So I said, oh, sure. Little did I know at the time that it was not quite as easy as just saying, oh, sure. And then slowly but surely, people like Walter and a number of our other crucial people came along, and we started to work this real hard. And we had to get recognized first. It's important. And of course, you're asking for money, so people want to know, well, are you legitimate or what? So you have to be able to prove your legitimacy. And so we started getting in touch with the VFWs and the American Legions and other organizations where the veterans were known. And lo and behold, we started getting people calling, and they wanted to be part of it. And so then we said, okay, we're going to go with this. So we scheduled a flight for November of 2010, and we had a full flight. The flight carries 150 people, and we were able to collect. Each flight costs around $60,000 to put a flight on, and most of that is the aircraft itself, which is a charter, in our case from U.S. Air, because U.S. Air flies their normal flights out of here to Washington anyhow. So that's really how it got started, and Walter came on board very early, and he was just a firecracker getting this thing moving, and so we had to do a lot of things to get it going, and so we had our first flight on the 10th of November 2010.
Right.
Why do you do it? You know, for me, the reason I think I take a special interest in this is my mom and dad lived through World War II, and my dad nearly was sent to the South Pacific. He missed it by a few days, and I think he always regretted not actually seeing action. But I imagine you guys have some sort of attachment to World War II yourselves.
Well, my father was old enough to be a World War II veteran. However, he worked for a company called Curtiss Wright, and they built the airplane engines that the Army Air Corps was flying, so he was not eligible to go in. He had to stay here in the United States and complete that work.
And that was quite a job over here, because we to build up all that stuff in such a short time.
So that was on my side of the family. My wife's father was D-Day +4 in Normandy. Wow. So he went from Normandy through France into Germany, and then eventually into even Poland. So that's part of the driving force behind what I do, and that's basically for him and for my wife. Bert did an awful lot of work with that first flight, and you know, it's because of him that I got involved, and I thought that I would just drive some veterans to the airport and be done for the day. Right? Wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what, and we'll talk about the money and everything that goes into putting an honor flight on and how you can help. But let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll actually take a look at one of the honor flights and what happens in Washington, D.C. before, during, and after the trip. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Carolina This Week. This week I have a couple of the organizers of Honor Flight, which takes World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. to see the monuments in their honor, with me. And right now I want to take a minute, and Mallory Nichols, WPDE News Channel 15's Mallory Nichols, went along. I believe this was the last honor flight to go out of Myrtle Beach back in
October.
This is back in October
2012.
Yep. Right. So let's take a look at this, and this is exactly what happens during an honor flight.
These men may have served in different branches of the military and fought in different battles, but on this day, these veterans all had one mission in mind.
The World War II monument was one of the last ones to go up, and you know, a lot of these old guys couldn't see that.
The 4th Grand Strand Honor Flight took off bright and early with 88 World War II veterans on board. The ages of these men range between 83 to 94. The baby on board was born in 1929. All were excited to get to Washington, where they received royal treatment. The tour of D.C. started with the World War II Memorial, where the veterans were greeted with a surprise visit from South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham.
Y'all defeated some of the most evil, vicious people in the world. We owe so much to you.
Lots of pictures were taken. Some good memories were shared.
I was on a small craft, APC 101, which is a coastal transport. I was the ship's cook, also known as a belly robber.
I had the pleasure of coming back to the United States and come all the way back and got on the USS Missouri and took Harry Truman down to Rio de Janeiro for a while. That was my last trip in the Navy.
And some not so good memories.
We were going along the island and out in the water, and a big wave came and tipped the ship. And before we could right and come back, another wave hit us and we almost tipped over. We only had one more degree to go and the ship would have been turned over.
April Fool's Day, Okinawa. We had 138 ships hit there that day. So it was wasn't a very pleasant place to be.
They also visited the Lincoln, Korean, Vietnam, and Iwo Jima memorials. The jam-packed day ended with the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The goal of the trip was to bring our nation's heroes to the memorials erected in their honor, but the men got even more out of it.
I met a lot of people that lives there in Myrtle Beach, you know, I haven't seen before, and they're all servicemen, and it's quite a thing.
Just when you thought the day was over, there were even more surprises, including a top honor water salute, letters from local school children thanking them,
I really appreciate your veterans fighting for all of us.
and a huge VIP welcome home.
It's absolutely fantastic. I didn't expect all of the red carpet treatment that we got today. I'm just honored.
The day was long and exhausting, but one these men will never forget.
That's just incredible to see those guys and see their reactions, and I imagine you guys have seen it firsthand many times.
Many times.
Incredible.
And the tears.
Yeah.
You know.
Tell me about what is maybe what for each of you? What's the most what really sticks out? Is there one incident that really sticks out that happened on any of your trips?
Well, I think in my case, I would say it's getting to the World War II Memorial. Now, some of them have been there before, but they have not been there in the way that we try to honor these veterans by bringing them there with a group. And they haven't told their stories even to their families, but suddenly when they get on that plane, they start talking to each other, and then they'll start talking to their guardians, and so you hear a number of wonderful stories from these guys who are 85 to 95 years old. And they don't think they can make it around there, but boy, I'll tell you, they are just moving out as fast as they can go.
How about for you, Walt?
I think for me, there's two things that stand out. One of them was when Senator Dole was there when our bus arrived. And his wife Elizabeth was there too. And the unique thing about it was she was standing off onto the side. She was just watching what was going on. And all of the World War II veterans got around him and were shaking his hands. And nobody was talking to her. And that's what really struck me. And I walked over to her, and she was the most pleasant person. And then I introduced her to a couple of the veterans and a couple of our people, and I just felt better that she was getting a little bit of recognition as well, because you know, I mean, the senator himself, he was the driving force behind having the memorial constructed. So,
Sure.
So I think that, and we took a lieutenant general with us who was a World War II, Korean, and Vietnam veteran. And as we were in Reagan coming home, another lieutenant general, current active duty, was walking through.
Wow.
I got a chance to talk to him, and I put the two of them together, you know, because here's two peers, you know, same rank and everything. And I think that with that little conversation, it only took a few minutes, but it was really very, very, very nice and a very enjoyable time.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned Bob Dole, and I think of two famous pilots from World War II in politics, and that's Bob Dole and George Bush, the first George Bush.
Yes.
And both of them, I believe, shot down.
Yes.
When they served.
Yeah, George Bush, I think, picked up by a submarine, wasn't he?
I think Senator Dole was wounded severely at Anzio.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
As I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
He
two
was
different
around
theaters,
for it.
but yeah.
And these are people that have played a part in our lives. For people my age, I'm around 40 growing up, you know, it was the World War II generation that really led us to where we are now. Right. And these men and women are dying at an alarming rate, like we mentioned, and hate to be morbid about this, but we need to get them to D.C.
That's right. And you know, Tom Brokaw called them right. The greatest generation.
Sure. Well, you mentioned your dad building the infrastructure back home. Everybody played a part.
He did a rather unique thing besides doing the airplane engines. He couldn't get into active duty, so he joined the USO.
Oh, wow.
And he was an entertainer as well. So, you know, he used to do that, and that's what he enjoyed doing. So
everybody pitched in
Everybody
somehow.
in their own way.
And we have some video, I think, of the arrival and departure of one of the honor flights. I'd like to show them. What I like about this video, you see the people coming out to wish them well as they head off to Washington, as they return home. I know that some of the schools get together, and they the elementary school kids will make cards for the kids. We saw Mallory talk about that in her story. I bet you see some pretty funny stuff through that.
Well, I don't get involved in that because I have enough to do other areas, but we have one person who lives in Little River, and she does thousands of these.
Wow.
And she, you know, she sits, once we set the TSA seating chart up for the plane, Dawn will actually sit there and she'll stuff envelopes with their names on them by row, by seat. And there's just so many, and it's great. And now this flight is a little different because it's out of school time. We're August 28th. So a lot of the schools have already started to put their letters together for us so that we'll have them, because they'll be on vacation at the time of the flight.
Let me ask you, how many veterans from our area have been up there now?
464.
464. They fly, the veterans themselves fly for free.
That's correct.
All right.
Yes.
It takes a lot to get 460 people up there. You talked about chartering airplanes. You talk about the people that have to go out there with them, getting buses once you get up there. When we come back, that's when we're going to make our pitch. All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking about Honor Flight this morning. That's the program that takes World War II veterans from our area to Washington, D.C. to see the monument in their honor. Over 460 World War II veterans have come out of Myrtle Beach to see the memorial so far. You're hoping to get about 75 to go on a flight in August.
Right.
Now let's talk a little bit about what it takes. And we did talk about it earlier, but you have to charter a plane.
Yes.
You have to arrange for transportation once you get to Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So you got a lot of logistics there to cover.
You have lunches to provide during the day.
Yeah.
So it's, chartering the plane with U.S. Air is pretty good. They have a group out in Arizona that does nothing but that. And they're very good with Honor Flight. They give us a good rate. If you charter a plane for 150 people, you know it's expensive.
Right.
And the crews volunteer to come on these flights. They love it. They really do. They decorate the plane. There's bunting and everything all over the place. It's really interesting the way they do it.
Yeah.
And then we have in Reagan, because of the proximity of Reagan to the Pentagon, we get a lot of active duty people that have an opportunity to come over in the morning and greet the planes. Yeah. And that's nice. We've had Air Force One's flight crew there. We've had the Air Force One service crew, of course that's much bigger, and then
we saw earlier in the show that you had Senator Lindsey Graham come out and talk to him.
Yes, he had senators come.
Bob Dole.
Bob Dole at the memorial itself. That's where he likes to greet them.
Yeah.
At the memorial, he doesn't come to the airport. And we hope our new senator, Tim Scott, will be there this time. But I don't think Congress is in session on the 28th of August, so they may be here in the state of South Carolina.
They might be working down here.
Yeah.
Maybe we get them to come to the airport before they leave.
I mentioned it to them, but I don't know if that'll happen.
Now, how far, for people watching, how much of our area do you cover? So if somebody has a relative that lives maybe in Florence or Charleston.
Absolutely, we will take them. We've reached out to Marion and Florence and into Calabash area in North Carolina. We've gone up, and we've even put it in the paper up in Wilmington, because I understand all of the North Carolina hubs have shut down. So, but that doesn't mean that somebody didn't move into the area and has never been on a flight. So we've gotten the word out to those counties as well.
And for a price, you can become a guardian, and that's a donation.
Absolutely.
For sure to make this all work. And you can fly up there, and I imagine that it's pretty rewarding for the guardians.
Oh, it is.
It is, without a doubt.
And we have a lot of veterans from the current Afghanistan,
yes,
Iraq, current veterans from those locations, and even Vietnam veterans. In some cases, Korean War veterans will go as a guardian and are willing to pay because they know that they are giving honor to the veterans of our greatest generation.
Yeah.
Besides that, how else can people help out?
They can donate directly if they go to our website. It's honorflightmyrtlebeach.com.
And I'm going to put a link to that on our website, carolinalive.com. So after the show, or right now if you want to, you can get on there and look that up and donate.
And make a donation right there.
Time, money, you'll take it all.
Absolutely, and they could do it by credit card, they could do it through PayPal. So it's,
and also, if you know a veteran, you can suggest the name through the website, and you guys, I imagine, will get in touch with them.
We will do that, and we will also mail an application, because many of the World War II veterans are not so computer savvy. Some do, some are good, some of them do, but it's easier for them to work with a hard copy in hand, I think, for the most part. So,
now, moving forward, do you see a time when you're going to be doing the Korea, when you're going to be doing Korea?
It's a decision that has not been made by the board of directors yet. So we talked about it. We've got a flight coming up August 28th. That's our main concern right at this point. That'll be a decision that is made after the current flight.
All right. So go to your website, carolinalive.com. Look for the honor flight story there. You might have to search it. Once you find it, you'll find a link to the honor flight website. Click it. You'll learn everything you need to know, how you can get in touch with these guys and help out. Thank you for stopping in this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Stay with us. We'll be right back.